Hello everyone, my name's James and welcome to the CovePodcast. Apologies for the long wait between episodes. I've struggled to have the motivation to put episodes together, as well as finding the subject matter to talk about. With that being said, with the FNAF movie 2 coming out in less than a week, I thought it'd be a great time to put together a bingo card of what I think might be in the film. Starting with my first prediction, the Wizards are just the classics broken. Now, I don't think that FNAF 2 is going to make the Wizards and classics separate robots. This will be elaborated in my next prediction, but I think this movie is going to determine whether retrofit theory is going to be killed or not, or whether or what's the theory that the unwizards were used in the 85 location? I can't remember, but I think this movie is going to kill that theory. I hope it does, because it's really, I hate the unwithered classic argument for the 85 location, because we have seen it a couple times, particularly the FNAF 2 Nightmares. Albeit you could argue that's the FNAF 1 location, but you know, puppets not in FNAF 1. And also in Into the Pit, where it uses the classic designs, except for Freddy, who has his withered head, you know? So, I'm really hoping that this finally puts an end to the arguments about whether the wizards and the classics were used in the 85 location. I just hope it cleans up the lore, really. My next prediction is that the classic/withered animatronics were brought from the FNAF 1 location to the FNAF 2 location by the FNAF 2's Night Guard. This is just because the Night Guard seems to have a very similar type of role that Vanessa had in the first film, except, you know, more direct. Instead of being someone who visits the pizzeria a lot, it's working there. And, you know, William said in the first film that the reason why the place hadn't been demolished is because, you know, William's very sentimental and he doesn't want to get rid of the place. Albeit that's what he says. He probably wants to keep it because, you know, it's got the ghosts in it. So I think there's a high likelihood that the reason why we see the Wizards in that location in the trailers is because the Night Guard moved them there himself, so they don't get destroyed when the building's demolished. My third prediction is that the first script is real. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, is during the FNAF 10-year anniversary, we got 4 pages of different types of scripts that we could have. So the first one was Abby being tricked by Toy Chica to put in a code that would supposedly free the toy animatronics. The other one was a joke parodying the military script that was scrapped for the first film. I believe the third one is a joke poking fun at the teddy bears take over Manhattan script. And the fourth one, there isn't exactly anything wrong with it, but it mentioned the characters on the carousel are different to what we see in the trailer, and also in that FNAF 2 party thing that was thrown a few weeks ago, however long it was. So I don't think it's that one. And considering we do see the toy animatronics walking around freed, and we do know that the toy animatronics are going to be able to talk, I'd say that the first one is probably real. On to my fourth prediction, that is that the withered animatronics are going to have a very small role in the film, you know? I don't think they're going to show up much, mostly because they're possessed by the missing children, and they shouldn't have that much beef with Mike. Of course, they have there's something going on with them because they're attacking him in the trailer. But I don't think they're going to have a very big role. I think they're going to show up in the FNAF 2 pizzeria, and then once all the characters stop going there, they're going to show up at the end for my next prediction, which is that the toys aren't going to fight the wizards. This is just a simple, 1, it'd be cool, and 2, something similar happened in the Twisted Ones novel where our classic animatronics fought the Twisted animatronics. So that's just a very basic prediction I have, which leads us onto our sixth prediction, which is that Golden Freddy's design won't change. the thing with Golden Freddy is his design was already different than his FNAF 1 appearance, and it added the element from Withered Golden Freddy onto him, with the missing ear and the slight withering. So I have a feeling that they might not change his design. They might just reuse the suit, because I don't think they'll need to change it. Next prediction is the cupcake will only be an Easter egg. I don't think it's going to make a big appearance or anything like that, on account of Wither Chica not having a cupcake. It might, if that fight between the toys and the Withers happen, it might show up there, but I don't think it's going to have a major role. Now, my next prediction is that a cameo will appear in the film, and that is Markiplier. Now, I know he said that he hasn't been called or hasn't asked for anything like that, but he could be lying. And this isn't unprecedented, because MatPat did the same thing for the lead up to the first film, So there could be a chance that Markiplier is, in a small way, in this film. Speaking of MatPat, I think Toy Bonnie, who was voiced by MatPat in this film, is going to quote game theory. I don't know what he's going to say that's going to be quoting from it, but anything will do. I might not catch it. I'm not that big on watching game theory. Obviously, I watched a lot of their videos, but I was never subscribed to them. Next up, we have seeing Fredbear. This just comes down to the fact that, if they're talking about, oh, this is the original Freddy's, but they might pull the rug and say, oh, wait, this was based off a different restaurant, Fredbear's Family Diner, and that might be what we see in the second film. There's also a case of, is Golden Freddy Fredbear in the films? So it might be like the Silver Eyes, where Fredbear and Golden Freddy are just the same thing. Or it might be like the games, where Fredbear and Golden Freddy are sort of the same thing, but they're not the same suit. Fredbear is rotting somewhere in some back room, and the Golden Freddy's just being projected into areas where the spirit wants it to be. Like we see in the week before, Fredbear is physically separate from Golden Freddy, but Golden Freddy is directly connected to Fredbear. It's very wishy-washy. I don't really know the exact... You can never know with Golden Freddy, but that's how I've been interpreting how Golden Freddy works. And the FNAF movie could have that happen, because the Torture Freddy thing from the first film, we can see its body, and it's a spring-lock Freddy, which makes me think it might be the actual Fredbear body, and Fredbear's just and the spirits in Fredbear are just projecting themselves with the Golden Freddy body. But you never know, and not until we see the film. I am also now thinking, what if Golden Freddy just doesn't show up? I doubt he won't. I think he is an important character and he will have to show up, but I don't know how they could fit him in, Speaking of bears that might show up, I think Shadow Freddy will appear, presumably possessed by Max from the first film. I think that's her name, the babysitter. But, he made a brief cameo in the FNAF 1 film as an empty springlock suit, and then got stuffed by Max, who was killed by Freddy. So I think there is a chance that Shadow Freddy might show up, but I do think I've put this separate to my next prediction, because I don't think it's certain that all the Vandals will show up possessing their springlock suits. Which leads me on to number... What one is this? 12? It is 12. So prediction number 12, the Vandals might possess the spare springlock suits and show up in some way. I don't know if this will happen. I'm not very certain it will, but it's a possibility, I know some of the actors were thinking, we're hinting at it, but we don't have any confirmation. Now, onto my 13th prediction, because there's a free space in the middle. The marionette isn't actually controlling the toys, and it's Afton and Spring Bonnie doing it. So this is based off the Twisted Ones, where It's revealed at the end that the Twisted Ones are actually being controlled by William Afton as he's using a stage rehearsal program or whatever it is to control the Twisted Ones. And the things we've heard from FNAF 2 movie with the marionette apparently being a conductor of the animatronics sounds very similar to that. So I think there's two ways in which this can go. One is the marionette controls the animatronics through most of the film up until the end where Afton takes control, or Afton's always in control, and the reason why the toys are on a murderous rampage is because Afton has been put in control at the end of FNAF 1, and now he's finally able to sort of get revenge on Mike and Abby and all that through the toys. Number 14, Vanny will be set up for the third film, or some other thing in the future. Now, this is a bit of an odd prediction for me personally, because I don't know how Vanny will fit into the movie series. I honestly think it'd be very unsatisfying, really. I think the first film did Vanessa very poorly, in the sense that directorially she was played as the straight person, you know? Not like that, the straight man, as in like everything's crazy, but like she's level-headed one. She's not written like that, though. She's written as a very mentally broken person who's mentally younger than they are because of repressed emotions and stuff, and it doesn't feel like Emma Tammy saw that. And I know it's a bit odd to put the blame on the director, but it feels like the direction that the actors were given, and the camera work and the framing of the film and the editing didn't seem to understand Vanessa's character. And I feel like that's done her poorly, especially in, you know, if we are going to set up Vanny. I remember with that out of the way, let's get on to my next one, which is that Aunt Jane is alive. This is just there because, you know, if she died, then Mike would probably be investigated by the police, you know? Her body dead in the middle of her living room. That's a bit suspicious. He'd be in jail. So I think she probably lived in, I don't know, maybe she's gone on some crazy conspiracy thing. Maybe, you know, I think it said in one of the descriptions that the story around the story around what happened in Freddy's is what inspires that Faz Fest we see in the trailer. So maybe she talking about the animatronics walking around being possessed. That might be what starts up the Faz Fest. On to my next one. This one is based off I wouldn't say it's a leak because it was said directly by an actor that played the character. Actually, do you know what? I'll put a timestamp on the video if you want to skip this, because it is a little spoilery. So here's your time to skip this, but let's get on to it. There has been a small leak that the night guard in the FNAF 2 location is Michael Afton. And this comes from, I believe it was, Getty Images. They did an interview with him for some reason. I don't actually know where the source is, but he says his character is named Michael, and you know that there was already people predicting that character could be Michael, you know, before that interview came out. But now that that interview came out, people are more certain, and I think it'd be very interesting, you know. It kind of, I don't know how they're gonna implement Michael into the film, because his character is very similar to Vanessa in the games. I think we don't know much about his character. We know he's a sense of humor. He feels bad about crying child being killed by him, and I don't know, he likes pizza. That's why he says he works at the FNAF 1 location or something like that. He could have been talking about the FNAF 3 location, but like at that point I don't think he's looking for free pizza, you know. So it'd be very interesting to see what they do with Michael. If it is Michael, it could very well be Sammy, but you know. Speaking of Michael Afton and stuff, I think there could also be a chance that Circus Babies is teased in the film. Just because FNAF 3 might be Fazbear's Fright, and that might be what FazFest is teasing. But like for movies after the third one, if they're going to do that, I think Circus Babies are going to have to do that, because they obviously can't just do a whole movie that's just the dreams. They have to have something real for FNAF 4, and I think Circus Babies would slot in there. And they don't even have to break the naming convention. They can just say sister location, and it would work out just fine, you know? The next prediction I have is that Endo 2 will appear as an Easter egg. We had Arnold, the endoskeleton in the first film, showing up in the back of a couple scenes, so maybe we'll get a new endoskeleton named something else that will be appearing. Next prediction is RWQFSFASXC will make an appearance, or Shadow Bonnie, as most people know him. I don't know exactly how he could fit into it, but he might just be an Easter egg, but he could have a larger role, We might get an actual explanation for what he is. My next prediction is based off a interview Emmett Tammy had. I don't know which one it was, but she mentioned that there's going to be an Easter egg that's almost like a cameo. Now, what that makes me think is it might be a Fanverse character, and that maybe Candy or the ignited animatronics, maybe if the Wizards and Toys fights, the Wizards will be broken down to what looks like the ignited animatronics. It might be like that. But I think a Fanverse character is going to appear in some way. Next prediction is a prediction for what the soundtrack's going to sound like, and I really want No Hope for Pluto to appear in the soundtrack. That was the music used in the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 trailer, and it is, it really played up to the atmosphere of the second game. So I hope they somehow incorporate it into this film. Next one is the puppet jump scare is going to get recreated. We've seen from the trailer that Foxy's jump scare isn't fully recreated, probably because it'd be very difficult to have a big 7-foot heavy animatronic leap across a hallway. So I think the puppets, if we get good screen time on them, might have that jump scare recreation of them leaping from a long distance. My next and final one is that we'll learn why Afton followed Mike's family to a camping trip. I don't know what the exact time was, but I remember someone mentioned it somewhere between 8 and 6 hour drive to the campsite. So I'm thinking maybe we'll learn why Afton did that, following a random family that far. I hope... Oh, I skipped one. Sorry. I skipped one of the predictions. Yes, so it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing I skipped this one, because this is the one I don't want to come true, and that's a character secretly be a robot. I don't think anyone wants this. If you do want this, you're probably in the minority, because we don't want more robot people. It was fine. Not really. It was kind of not very well done in the Charlie trilogy. Secret of the Mimic did it sorta, and it did it actually very well. It felt more grounded, it felt more real. It felt like Scott had a much better understanding of how to do a story like this. That part of me hopes that confidence from doing such a well job at doing a sort of robot person story in Secret of the Mimic doesn't give him the confidence to do it in the films, because I don't think it will work out. I think it'll be bloody horrible, And yeah, I think that's all my predictions for the second film. And that just about does it for this episode of the CovePodcast. Done up with all the predictions. Again, I want to apologize for the long gap between this one and the last one, but haven't had that much motivation and haven't had much good things to talk about, because I have these theories, but they would need a full video. Speaking of full video, I mentioned a while ago that the first full video I want to do on this channel is about Charlie's death date. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, because that theory has ballooned into solving half the timeline. And when I say half, I mean 1 to 6. If you're counting the rest of it, it's only about a third of the timeline, but that's still a lot. So I might start writing up the script, but don't expect a full video, because it is going to be very bulky, you know? Now that I think about it, I might make a video. I might make the timeline video going over what I think, what the theory of Charlie's death date entails. And then I might make a podcast that goes over each one of the points to make it more digestible. Because if I were to try and make every point and how they connect to each other, it would be there. We would be there for ages. It is such an interwoven and connected theory. I'm still working on the name for it. Charlie 85 is fairly simple, but like, I don't think it encompasses all the ideas. And also Charlie 85, that can be before or after, you know, the missing children's incident. And this is why another name I have for it is employment response, which is Charlie's death happens after Afton was fired from, you know, killing all those children. Not fired from killing those children as in his job is killing children, but fired from Freddy's because he killed the children, you know? So that might be how I do it. I have a funny idea of how I'm going to do the visuals for it. So if you're excited to hear I think it's one of the most airtight theories I've come up with. So if you're excited to hear that, subscribe. I'm hoping to have that done sometime around late December, early January. So that's all from me. Have a good night.